Hello, friends. I thought for this video I would talk about um, my journey so far into psychic mediumship and the journey or development that I've had so far. Um, I think so. A lot of people want to get into this and they want to learn how to develop their skills and you hear like um you hear the psychics and the mediums. They say that oh, we all have the skill or the ability to be psychic or to do mediumship. It's all in us, and um, we just have to learn to maybe unlock it or get to the place where we can use those skills. um, I would have to agree with them. Um, not to say that they're lying to us or anything like that, but I do understand after going through like some of the classes that I took with Kevin Lewis and Stouffer Cavins. We all do have the ability to tap into something that or some kind of awareness or intuitiveness. It all lies within us, and it's just how we uh, develop those skills to access that um, maybe gift that already lies inside of us. So, with my journey into psychic mediumship, it actually started with Reiki. Um, Interestingly enough, when I was young, well, my mom, s- um, she did uh, a lot of she did a lot of Reiki, actually, a lot of Reiki. She was a Reiki healer. She did psychic mediumship. She did readings and stuff like that. And um, I remember she would have clients come. Her clients would come to the house, and so I would have to whenever somebody was coming over. Um, I would have to bring out the Reiki table and set it up, and then, you know, we'd have to go into the other room and be real quiet while she was doing her healing or doing her doing her stuff. And so I remember the first time that really stood out to me as like a psychic uh, vision, I'll say, was when my dad got hit by a car. He was at one point he was working um, at a car dealership, and I think what happened was he was teaching somebody how to drive a stick, and she was learning how to park the car, and she didn't know that. Um, I don't know. I think she left it in gear, and she actually hit him. Um, it wasn't really bad, but it was bad enough that he got hurt. He hurt his back, but it wasn't like she ran over him or anything like that. She hit him. He hurt his back, and his he suffered with it for a little bit, and it just kind of lingered. And so I remember one time he was just complaining about his back and his head, and so he asked my mom for some Reiki, and like my dad wasn't. He was very well, yeah, I would say he was respectful of what my mom did, but he wasn't into it. So he didn't try to like develop his skills or anything like that. Like he let her do her thing, and gave her space. But anyways, he asked for some Reiki. So my mom thought, oh, it'd be a good idea to like let us uh like me and my brother and I think my sister too. I always say I think my sister because I don't remember her being too much into this, but um she said, "Oh, let's all like work on your dad, and this will be like a good like introduction for you guys." So we had an idea. We knew kind of what she did and then what we were going to do. So she had us do like a quick like clearing meditation just to clear our space, and then she did her energy work to clear us. Um, and then so I remember my brother. She had us put our hands on certain parts of the body. So I think my brother may have been at his stomach, and then my mom put her hands on his chest, and I had my hands on the back of his head. And so I just remember putting putting my hands at um at the base of his head, both hands at the base of his skull, and then she just told us to be at peace and picture for us to picture white light coming from us from our hands into whatever we're touching, and then just love your dad. She said, "Love your dad." So that's what we did, and uh, the the interesting part for me was when I had my hands there, where my hands like they got hot and stuff, and I did what she said. My hands got hot, but I had this in my head. I uh, I had this vision of like an ant farm. I don't know if you guys know, like, or have you seen like the ant farms that are in the glass, and then there's like all the sand, and then you can see like tracks with where the ants walk through, and then like it goes up, it goes down all around, and so it was that's kind of what I saw was like, or it was like um I don't know how to explain it. It was like um I saw like tubes, and then inside those tubes I saw these like black things. It was like black circles all along the tubes, and I just never forgot that vision, and it didn't feel right when I saw it, but I didn't say anything because I remember. So when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this doesn't feel right," but I didn't say anything because I remember my mom used to tell me like, "There's a responsibility with doing this, um, and you can't just be willy nilly about it." And I remember there was another time where she did a Reiki on my dad, and they used to like to joke around and play jokes on each other. And so like one of the jokes that my dad used to do was he would like walk up behind her, and then he'd put like his hand over her forehead, and he was like, "Can you see? Can you see?" Like he was like covering her third eye, and he'd be like, "Ha ha ha, 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 you can't see. I closed your eye." And then that was his joke. And then so one time she was doing Reiki on him, like I think his knee was bothering him or something. And she took her turn, and then she was like, "Oh no." And then so my dad freaked out and he's like, "What?" And she's like, "Nothing." And so it was like their joke. But I knew like, oh, you can't joke about stuff like this, or you shouldn't joke, and you shouldn't um like you should be careful with what you speak about. because it is, like sensitive and stuff like that. So I didn't say anything around my dad. Later on, I talked to my mom about it, and she just said, that's interesting. And so maybe fast forward like a month, my dad got sick. Like he was still recovering from his back injury, but then he got sick. And so he went to the doctor, and then he found out that he had a brain infection. And, you know, they did all these antibiotics, none of it worked. They took a brain biopsy, they sent it to the CDC, and the CDC said something like, "Oh, we've only seen like this strain of virus one time before, and we don't know how to fix this." And so, yeah, but that's what I saw was that virus or that brain infection that he had, but I wasn't at that time, I wasn't able to, like, tap into it and get more into it and stuff like that. It did, mess him up pretty good. Um, but yeah, that was my first, like, profound moment of, like, uh, being able to see something, being, like, I guess, psychic, was through Reiki. And then, fast forward to last year when I wanted to develop these skills so that I had the ability to one talk to my mom and dad again, who were on the other side, and then knowing that a lot of people come to YouTube to like reach out to their loved ones, through other people like, you know, the Kevins, both Kevins, Mel, Linda, JJ, you know, Debbie Freebird, like all of those people, right? We all go to them and we ask, can, do you have a message for my spirit team or for my mom who's passed away or Uncle Billy or something like that? Um, or my husband or something, you know? So I thought like, oh, why don't I do that? And then, or learn, then I could communicate with them and then maybe help other people with it. So like I said, I took the classes from that Kevin and Stouffer offered, and then I did some other work too. Um, I guess what I took away from it was it was it's really about like how to develop this skill is really just learning to be quiet and learning to be able to hear or feel or listen. So I always thought that I had so I'm not good with the clairs. Sorry, Stouffer and Kevin. I know you guys taught us about all our clairs and stuff like that, but I always had the feeling that my gift or the clair that worked for me the most was my sense of uh, knowing or hearing, actually hearing. But then I felt like actually I don't hear. Like the more I got into this with like meditation and um, practicing um, in the classes with Kevin and Stouffer and all the other people that took the classes, um, was I wasn't hearing things, I was knowing things. So it's like in your dream, like when you dream and somebody's speaking to you, I don't think you hear it audibly, but you hear it like inside. And so then I started to realize, like, oh, that's the sense of knowing, right? Or intuition. And so I thought, oh, that was my skill. And then the more I meditated And the more, that I did practice um, doing readings with other people, all of a sudden I could see clearly. I mean, I could see clearly. Like, I could see colors vividly. I could see, like, I'll never forget, like, one of the first things that I saw, I was doing a reading on somebody, and we were asked to, like, find out where they're from or see if we could figure out where they're from and part of their history. And I'll never forget, I saw these rolling hills. I think I was doing a reading on a guy, and I saw like these rolling hills, just green grass everywhere. And I said, "Oh, I see some rolling hills." And I said, "I feel like you're from the East Coast." And it feels like, I don't know why, I felt like Quakers and Amish. And then I heard Pennsylvania. And then so I asked him, and I said, "Oh, are you from Pennsylvania?" And he said, "Yes." And I was like, "Whoa," I was like blown away. But um, how I got there was really through meditation, because it was it was the practice of being quiet that allowed all of these things to develop. So, like I said, it all started with being able to hear. Then it changed into being able to feel. And then it changed into being able to see. But if I never meditated, I would have never gotten quiet enough or gotten to that space where those things can present themselves. So I think, like, if you're trying to learn to become or to open up your psychic ability and develop in mediumship, it really starts with learning to have the ability to quiet yourself or your mind so that you can get to the space where you need to get to, where all of this stuff happens. So I'm not saying that meditation is the only way, because I know, like, there's intuitive writing. um, I think Debbie Freebird Spirit, she teaches a class about um, free writing. Maybe Jason Tempinski also, but that's just another way of doing it. Um, and I think Sterling, he also talks about free writing or writing things down. Um, but it's whatever you can do to get to that space where your mind is quiet enough to allow things to develop, and then to work on mediumship and your psychic ability. It really does take practice. Um, so, like Stouffer and Kevin, they gave us the tricycle or the bicycle with the training wheels on it, and it was us to practice. It was on us to practice and do the work of actually, reading and tapping into things. And the more you do it, um, the better you get at it. I guess you get better at it because you're able to tap in quicker because you do it so much, and you're able to understand the difference between what is and what isn't. So, like I say, a lot of struggle people struggle with is like, oh, is that my ego or is that spirit talking to me? You'll know the difference once you learn what ego sounds like and what spirit sounds like or feels like or looks like, whatever skills you yourself develop or uh, we'll say are your strengths. So I remember being in class and I was like, I always thought like, oh, when you're a psychic, everybody sees everything. And then so at first I was like, I don't see nothing. Oh my God, I'm a failure. That was like one of the biggest struggles that I had was in the class. So in the first class that I took, I was that was well, actually, I should save that story because it's almost like a blooper story, but I'll save that for another video. But um, oh shoot, I went off on a tangent. I forgot what I was talking about. Um, I'm not going to apologize for that though. That's who I am. I'm learning. Uh, but yeah, just practice, 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 so that you could learn the difference in your clairs. Um, I think I do remember in the class that in the class. Sorry, no, I'm not sorry, not sorry. In the class, there were people that couldn't see also, and they're like, "Oh, I hear, or I feel, I get colors, or I get this, I could taste," and I was like, "Oh, I can't do none of that stuff. I can only hear, and I don't hear it well." But then the more I did it, it turned, like I said, that progression within me was I. It started off as hearing, it turned into feeling, and then it went to feeling, or from I'm sorry, it went from feeling to being able to see, and then when I saw clearly. Um, I remember one of the biggest mistakes one of the biggest lessons that I learned uh, was to use all of your abilities. So um, I really got excited when I was able to see because I was able to see things clearly, just like I'm looking through my regular eyes. I could see colors, um, I could see pictures, just as I was looking at normally. And then I forgot about my other senses, like my ability to feel and um, to hear. And so I only focused on um, the ability to see. And I think it was because, I had this preconceived notion that everybody sees and everybody sees clearly, like all the good readers. Because, you say, like, oh, I see this for you. Um, but maybe it's not, I see this. I feel this, but they're saying that, it's coming to me as a vision. And so I thought that's what I needed to do. Um, and so I only focused on it, and that was a big learning lesson because I realized at one point where I was struggling because at at one point I wasn't seeing as clearly or as I wasn't seeing as much, and then sometimes I would only see one thing when I was doing readings instead of many things, and so I started to get frustrated. And then um, for some reason, I was somebody said something and it caught my attention. I don't remember what it was, but it was an epiphany that I'm not trying to use all of my abilities. And I when I realized that, I was like, "Oh shoot, I'm like holding myself back." And so when I did, when I did, so what I do what I do normally is when I go in, when I try to tap into, like, let's say, like, um, if I was doing a mediumship and they're like, "Oh, can you see if you can see my sister?" Um, or "Can you see my mom?" So I was like, "Okay, let me go in there," and then um, what I used to say was, "I'm gonna get quiet. I'm gonna try to tap into to whoever comes through, and I'll tell you what I see." And just by those words alone, put a block. So my intention was only to see and not to get what I get. And I'll never forget that because it was the realization of the limitation that I put on myself. It was the reason why I was only getting what I was getting. And so when I changed the verbiage around to, um, I'll tap in and I'll tell you what I get, then everything opened back up. And then all of a sudden, all of these clairs or uh, gifts that I developed, they all came in together. And so I'll never forget the reading that I was doing was I was tapping into somebody's mom who passed away on the other side. And then I saw her, I heard her, and then I felt her. It was the most profound experience that I felt at that time. Well, probably the whole time, but it was such a great learn. It was a powerful learning lesson because when I did that, then I was able to tap into her pain, her um, well, I won't say any names, but um, the mom that crossed over, she felt sorrow or she felt sad because she thought she could have gave her daughter a better life and she wasn't able to. But I really felt that pain, and um, I felt the emotion. I heard her say it, and I saw her in my mind's eye. Um, so it was a good experience. It was a good lesson to or a reminder for myself to not put limitations on yourself, um, and to choose your words carefully because spirit's listening, and spirit sometimes will give you what you're asking for. And so if you're asking only to see, then that's sometimes what you might get is only the ability to see, and it might be limited. um think I'll stop the video here because I guess that's as far really as I've gotten into psychic mediumship. Is I've learned how to get there. I've done the work. I've done the readings. Where I want to go with this, I'm not sure yet. I don't think that I want to try to be the next Kevin Lewis or Stouffer Cavins or Kevin Chandler. I'm still trying to figure out what R- Richie's going to be. But I do appreciate um, everybody sharing their gifts and their knowledge. If you have some tips um, that you've learned for um, developing your psychic abilities, I would appreciate it if you left it in the comments. Maybe I could try that out. For those of you who have already developed your skills, or maybe you're further along, or you're very confident in what you do, and you have little tricks to help you get to your magic spot, we'll say. That'd be great if you could share them in the comments. But those are the ones that I shared so far. For me, it was meditation, because it was just the practice of getting quiet, and the practice of getting to um, that place where I don't want to say my magic happens, but um, when I go there, that place, there's a place. So I remember listening to Sterling, and he says his place is like a boardroom that has a big window and it overlooks something. My magic place is actually a dark room that's empty, and everything's all black. And once I get to that black, so it's not dark like dark energy or anything like that. It's just a void, a place of nothing. And then um, when I like, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish, like if I'm trying to do, or if I am doing a psychic reading, I will see uh, a version of the person in that dark room, or in that room of nothing, or no thing. Uh, if I'm doing a mediumship, then I'll go to the room of nothing, that dark room, and then um, I'll ask for the person to come forward. But really, I'm open to whoever comes forward, because I've experienced that too in mediumship. Is I'm asking for Uncle Johnny, but then Father Fred comes through instead. Um, and then there's other people waiting in the back, but nobody comes forward. Just Father Fred. I have a message for my child. Uh, but anyways, that's my journey so far into psychic mediumship. If you guys have any tips uh, or comments about the video, maybe tips for me, or maybe tips for other people also that might help, that'd be really cool if you could leave those in the comments. Um, we could help each other out. All right. See you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.